Homily for the 25th Sunday of the year C. You cannot serve God and Mammon. Please, if you have not already done so, consider subscribing to this channel and help share with others. Our readings for this Sunday are from Prophet Amos, chapter 8, verse 4 to 7, 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1 to 8, and the Gospel of St. Luke chapter 16, verse 1 to 13. Today's Gospel story is told to teach Christians the wise use of money, to stress the fact that it is not possible to combine devotion to God with devotion to Mammon, to emphasize that to use money wisely is to give it away for a good cause and thereby ensure one's salvation. The honest steward gave away some of the wealth at his disposal for the sake of the future. His consciousness of and planning for the future is presented as an example for us. Amos, great champion of social justice. Every baptized Christian is by virtue of his or her baptism a priest, prophet, and king. We have a prophetic responsibility to speak for God in situations of social injustice and the oppression of the poor. This is what Prophet Amos did with consummate passion. Amos was a farmer. He neither belonged to the brotherhood of prophets, nor did he have any training in the art of being a prophet. He was called directly by God to condemn the wide and scandalous disparity between the rich and the poor, as well as the widespread exploitation of the lowly poor. Amos denounced the behavior of the privileged men and women who often paid lip service to God on the Sabbath while exploiting the poor the rest of the week. In discharging his prophetic task, Amos had none of the polished diplomatic language of the official prophets of the time, the kind of language that people want to hear. Amos pointed out the serious injustices of the day and denounced them bluntly, vigorously, and even brutally. Amos was evidently hurting inside, and he screamed out in protest as he mourned the loss of fidelity and the absence of true religion in Israel. He saw that people were claiming to be religious while living lives of greed and avarice and trampling on the lowly poor of the land. He condemned such behavior in the harshest manner and declared that under such circumstances, their religious devotion and ritual sacrifices were not only useless, but constituted a sacrilege. Rather than giving any honor to God, their gestures of worship and their sacrifices were offensive in God's sight. Amos was addressing people who claimed that they loved God and were serving Him, while at the same time living off the misery of the poor. He reminded them that true religion cannot keep company with greed for money and lust for power, and that when religious celebration is carried on along with corruption and oppression, such celebration is nothing but empty ritual and meaningless drama. Such celebration neither honors God nor sanctifies the person. When those who pretend to be religious are allies of the oppressive class who have conspired to sell the poor for a pair of sandals, and when they turn blind eye on the atrocities of their powerful allies, then they are far from worshiping the true God. When religious practice is not sufficiently critical of social injustice, such practice is indeed an affront to God. The dishonest but shrewd steward. In the gospel of today, Jesus tells the story of a dishonest but shrewd steward and commends him not for his dishonesty, but for his prudence and shrewdness, his resourcefulness and ingenuity, his imagination and foresight, as well as his creativity and industry. In a time of crisis, the steward takes firm and immediate action. He uses the resources available to him today to guarantee his own future. With the news of the imminent termination of his job, he took immediate action to ensure soft landing for himself. The steward in the gospel decided to use his prerogative to show some kindness to other people who, like him, were in trouble due to their indebtedness to his master. The lesson is this: if a dishonest man can use his master's money to ensure that there will be friends to welcome him when he is out of job, how much more should honest people use their God-given resources in such a way that when this life is over, they will be welcomed into the kingdom of God? Jesus holds up the crafty steward as an example because the children of light can learn one or two lessons from the children of darkness. Evil people are often industrious, single-minded, strategic, determined, and prepared to make sacrifices to achieve their evil ends. How much more should good people develop these traits and deploy them towards the realization of their good objectives? Between God and Mammon, every Christian must make a fundamental choice between serving God and neighbor and serving wealth and possessions, as we cannot serve both at the same time. While we are quick to think or say that it is God that we serve, a serious look at what we are passionate about, what we spend our energies and resources pursuing, etc., will often reveal who or what we are truly serving. Money and material possessions should never be treated as an end in themselves, but as an instrument for a higher end. God gives some people the grace of intelligence, resourcefulness, and industry, as well as the privileged opportunity to accumulate a lot of money and material goods. It is so that they can use these resources to benefit others in their society who may not be so gifted. Our admission into the kingdom will depend on how well we have utilized the resources entrusted to us in furtherance of God's purpose. Today's parable challenges us Christians to reflect on our attitude towards money and material possessions in general. God does not want any of his children to be destroyed by inordinate love for wealth and material possessions. If we cannot exercise restraint in the pursuit of wealth, and we lack any measure of healthy detachment from material goods, then we are in danger of losing our souls to these possessions and of being alienated from the Creator, who will not accept a second place in our hearts. The challenge of the parable. An important lesson from the parable is that our dealings with the material world and everything contained therein, and especially the way we relate to money and material possessions, must be in total submission to and loving service of God, the one who is responsible for all that we are and all that we have. We should use the resources at our disposal with an abiding consciousness that we are not the owners, but only stewards, and that we should be generous in dispensing those resources in such a way as to ensure a comfortable place for ourselves when eventually the resources are taken away. Another lesson from the parable is that when people really want something, they often rise to the occasion, deploying all their ingenuity into achieving the objective. Now, if we are so smart in things of the world, how come we often appear so dumb when it comes to pursuing our spiritual values and objectives? How come we often fail to understand that real success in this life is being able to constantly align our present efforts in the service of our future objective? If such shrewdness can be used in the administration of earthly goods, so to ensure the material well-being of a steward when he is out of office, how much more should we, who have been called to share in the treasures of the kingdom, commit ourselves to the administration of these eternal treasures with utmost diligence? Instead of being greedy, rapacious, and covetous with our material resources, we are being challenged to seize every opportunity that comes our way to use these resources for the benefit of others and to the glory of God. We are being challenged to use our earthly resources freely to serve God's purpose and thereby prepare a place for ourselves in His kingdom. No one can truly encounter Jesus without being set aflame for Him and for His kingdom values. Jesus either has all of you or He has nothing of you. He accepts no compromise. Yes, you cannot serve both God and Mammon. God bless you.